In the dead of night, Ukraine unleashes Operation Spiderweb 2.0, a precision strike that rewrites the rules of modern warfare. Drones tear through Russian airspace, erupting across Taganrog, Novorossiysk and Tuapse in a single coordinated assault. Rare A-50 and A-60 aircraft vanish in fire, a drone factory burns, an S-400 launcher falls silent. Oil terminals and refineries choke under cascading explosions. No Ukrainian losses, maximum Russian shock. Operation Spiderweb 2.0, Ukraine's strategic strikes across the Black Sea front. In the early hours of 25 November 2025, Ukraine launched one of its most daring and complex long-range drone and missile operations of the war, a coordinated series of deep strikes designed to cripple Russia's air reconnaissance, disrupt its drone production, and shake the foundations of its Black Sea fuel network. What unfolded across Taganrog, Novorossiysk and Tuapse was not a set of isolated explosions, but a single, unified campaign. Fast, precise, and devastating. The centerpiece of the operation hit the Beriev aircraft repair plant in Taganrog, a facility responsible for repairing Russia's A-50 airborne radar aircraft, overhauling Tu-95MS strategic bombers, and housing some of the rarest platforms in the Russian fleet. Ukrainian drones filmed the moment detonations tore through the plant's hangars, igniting massive fires and sending shockwaves across Russia's military aviation community. At the time of the strike, Ukrainian intelligence assessed that up to 3 A-50 aircraft and 1 Tu-95MS were undergoing repairs inside the complex. Among the wreckage, analysts identified the destroyed remains of the A-60, Russia's experimental airborne laser testbed, one of only 2 ever built. Satellite imagery obtained hours later confirmed the destruction of 2 aircraft, including the A-60 and the A-100 test stand, a unique prototype intended to replace the A-50 fleet. With the test platform now obliterated, experts suggest the A-100 modernization program may be irreversibly crippled. Commander Robert Magyar Brovdy of Ukraine's Unmanned Systems Forces released photos of the smoking ruins, showing an A-60 and an IL-76 lying shattered in the swampy perimeter of the airfield. "What could be better reconnaissance for a pilot?" Magyar remarked. "An expensive parking lot in the Taganrog swamps, A-60, IL-76, and a bonus still off-camera." Just meters from the Beriev plant sits Atlant Aero, the manufacturer of Molniya strike and reconnaissance UAVs, one of the pillars of Russia's growing drone warfare industry. Ukraine's coordinated attack hit key production buildings at the facility, igniting fires visible from space. This strike effectively disrupted a major node of Russia's drone ecosystem at the exact moment Moscow was trying to scale up UAV output. Southwest of Taganrog, Ukrainian drones slipped through Russian defenses to target the Sheskaris oil terminal in Novorossiysk, a critical hub that processes nearly 40 million tons of oil annually. Explosions damaged infrastructure used for loading and unloading tankers, and sensors detected hits on an S-400 air defense launcher guarding the facility. For a port that supplies Russia's Black Sea fleet and fuels export routes, even temporary disruption carries major economic and naval consequences. Further along the coast, another set of Ukrainian UAVs struck the Tuapse oil refinery, Russia's sole processing plant on the Black Sea, with a capacity of up to 12 million tons per year. Flames rose from impact zones in the industrial blocks. Analysts view this attack as a direct strike at Russia's energy export machine and its ability to fuel war operations. The Ukrainian General Staff confirmed that the entire wave of attacks was executed in a joint, multi-branch operation involving Bars strike drones, Neptune cruise missiles, missile troops, artillery units, special operations forces, naval coastal missile teams, and the unmanned systems forces. Despite the massive scale of the campaign, no Ukrainian losses were reported. Independent verification from satellite analysts, ISW, Kyiv Post, and multiple OSINT groups supports Ukraine's assessment. Russia suffered significant setbacks to its reconnaissance aviation, drone production, and oil infrastructure, all within a single night. By destroying the A-60 and the A-100 test stand, Ukraine has struck at the very core of Russia's airborne early warning capability. By hitting drone factories, it has slowed Moscow's UAV expansion. By damaging the Sheskharis terminal and Tuapse refinery, it has pressured Russia's energy revenues and fuel logistics. Operation Nightfang demonstrates a simple truth. When Ukraine synchronizes drones, missiles, and intelligence into a single strike package, it can reach deep into Russian territory and peel away the pillars supporting Moscow's war machine. The Great Pokrovsk Gambit: How a Ukrainian bluff broke a Russian platoon. On the most turbulent axis of the Eastern Front, as Russian forces push relentlessly toward Pokrovsk and Mirnokhrad, one Ukrainian operation stood out, not for its firepower, but for its precision, daring, and psychological mastery. In a two-day maneuver, reconnaissance troops from Ukraine's elite Rubizh Brigade captured an entire Russian platoon with almost no heavy fighting, using stealth, nerve, and a perfectly timed bluff. Pokrovsk remains the hardest and bloodiest sector of the entire front. Ukrainian forces still hold positions in the city centre, conducting constant search and strike missions to prevent the enemy from consolidating. Russian troops continue sending small assault groups from the northeast, especially near Novorossiysk, in their attempt to cut the land corridor between Pokrovsk and Mirnokhrad. But every group is detected in time, most are destroyed, and some surrender simply to stay alive. The Rubizh Brigade, veterans of Hostomel, Bakhmut, and Rubizhne, sent a special reconnaissance team under call signs Montana and Tikhi to probe a Russian platoon strongpoint. Under cover of darkness, the scouts removed tripwires and sabotaged enemy communications before Russian troops realized they were compromised. Startled and cut off, 3 Russian soldiers surrendered after a short exchange of fire and a quick negotiation in which Ukrainian troops promised safety and medical care. It was the quiet start of what would become a rare battlefield humiliation for the enemy. The next day, the scouts returned to clear the position entirely. 9 Russian soldiers were still hiding in the dugout, firing sporadically and refusing to give up. Rather than risk unnecessary casualties, the Ukrainian team switched to psychological warfare. "We told them a tank was already on the way," the brigade recalled. "If they didn't surrender, they would be buried right there." The threat worked. Without a single shot fired, all 9 laid down their weapons. In 2 days, 12 Russian soldiers, an entire platoon, were captured with minimal Ukrainian losses. On a front defined by brutal street fighting, this success stood out as a masterclass in discipline and battlefield psychology. Hours later, more Russian troops attempted to storm Mirnokhrad from the north. The assault collapsed almost immediately. Ukraine's 38th Marine Brigade captured 4 Russians mid-attack, half-starved, dehydrated, and barely able to stand. According to the prisoners, they had spent 4 days in a basement without food or water before being pushed forward. 3 of them were former convicts recruited on military contracts, thrown into battle with almost no preparation. Ukrainian airborne units operating nearby confirmed the capture as part of ongoing efforts to prevent Russia from severing the Pokrovsk-Mirnokhrad route. Despite heavy pressure, Ukrainian troops continue maintaining logistics to Mirnokhrad and securing additional supply routes. Fighting across the Pokrovsk-Mirnokhrad agglomeration remains intense, with 43 Russian assaults repelled in a single day along the eastern axis. Every attempt by Russian groups to advance from Novorossiysk is detected early and crushed. South of Mirnokhrad, assaults have also been halted. In Pokrovsk's urban districts, Ukrainian forces are hunting down infiltrators, eliminating assault teams and cutting enemy supply lines before they can take hold. In a battle where Russia relies on waves of infantry to exhaust Ukrainian defences, capturing a full platoon without heavy fighting is more than a tactical win. It is a psychological and operational blow. It shows Russian units that Ukrainian forces can infiltrate, outmaneuver, and outthink them, even in the most contested terrain. Pokrovsk may be one of the fiercest battlegrounds of the war, But as long as Ukrainian troops can turn a simple bluff into a platoon-level surrender, the city's defenders show they are not just holding the line, they are controlling the fight. Ukrainian drone strike reportedly hits Russian Tapir-class warship in Novorossiysk. In the early hours of 25 November, Ukrainian defense forces executed a coordinated long-range drone operation against military and logistical targets inside Russia's Novorossiysk port, one of the most heavily defended naval hubs on the Black Sea. According to preliminary reports, the strike likely damaged a Project 1171 Tapir-class landing ship, one of the largest amphibious vessels in the Russian Navy. Before dawn, waves of Ukrainian long-range drones penetrated Russian air defences and struck several sites across the Novorossiysk port complex in the Krasnodar region. An informed source reported that a Tapir-class landing ship docked at the naval base sustained damage during the attack. Novorossiysk is not merely a port, it is a strategic cornerstone for Russia's war effort, serving as both a Black Sea fleet base and a major oil export terminal, making any disruption there immediately significant. Project 1171 Tapir landing ships rank among the largest amphibious vessels in Russia's fleet. Designed to carry armoured vehicles, troops and equipment across the Black Sea, they have been repeatedly used to support Russian operations against Ukraine. Damaging such a ship at its home port, without deploying manned aircraft or missiles, marks another step in Ukraine's expanding long-range strike capability. A successful strike on a Tapir-class landing ship inside Novorossiysk would be a symbolic and operational blow to the Russian Black Sea fleet. More importantly, it signals that Ukraine's long-range drone network can now reach into Russia's best-protected coastal bases, hitting targets traditionally considered beyond its reach. As the smoke settles over Novorossiysk, Taganrog and Tuapse, one conclusion is clear. Ukraine is reshaping the Black Sea battlefield not with massive fleets, but with precision, coordination and the growing power of unmanned warfare. A swarm of vampire drones devastates a Russian infantry group. Ukraine's vampire bomber drones once again demonstrated their lethal precision on the battlefield, overwhelming a Russian infantry group in a coordinated aerial strike that left the enemy with virtually no chance of survival. The 5th Separate Assault Brigade released footage capturing the dramatic attack from above. Although the exact location was not disclosed, the strike likely took place near the administrative border between Donetsk and Dnipro regions. In the video, at least 4 vampire drones can be seen diving onto Russian positions. Military blogger Soldier of Fortune later reported that a total of 9 to 10 drones participated in the operation. Deploying such a dense cluster of heavy UAVs requires flawless coordination. Operators had to synchronize flight paths, dive angles and release timing to avoid mid-air collisions and preserve all platforms. Under such a barrage, the Russian infantry had virtually no path to escape. It remains unclear whether all the drones belonged to the 5th Brigade or whether neighbouring units contributed assets. What is certain, however, is Ukraine's clear priority: rapid elimination of enemy manpower, wherever it appears. Units defending the Dnipropetrovsk region are doing everything possible to prevent Russian forces from pushing deeper into the area. Just recently, Ukrainian troops needed only 1 hour to wipe out a Russian platoon near Oleksiivka. A convoy of trucks, cars and buggies moved through morning fog, only to be detected and immediately struck by a combination of artillery and attack drones, collapsing the assault in minutes. Beyond the front lines, Ukraine has expanded long-range drone strikes deep into Russian territory throughout 2025, targeting the Kremlin's war economy, logistics hubs and export infrastructure. As a result, Russia is now experiencing a severe air defense shortage. According to former Aidar battalion commander Yevhen Diki, this winter marks Russia's first symmetric winter, the first time Moscow must endure the same relentless drone pressure it has inflicted on Ukraine for 4 years. He notes that Ukrainian drones operating repeatedly over Moscow Oblast are not an anomaly, but a systematic strategy. "We have exhausted their air defenses to the point where they physically cannot cope," Dickie explains. While North Korea previously supplied Russia with large quantities of artillery shells, their stockpiles are now almost depleted. More importantly, surface-to-air missile systems cannot be replaced with North Korean equivalents due to technical limitations. North Korean SAMs are not something Russia can rely on, and autumn hasn't even ended yet, Dickie warns. On the night of 23 November, Ukrainian drones struck the Shatura thermal power plant near Moscow, one of Russia's oldest energy facilities. 3 transformers caught fire, forcing 137 personnel and 49 vehicles to respond to the emergency. From precision sky hunts against infantry to deep strikes inside Russia, Ukraine is reshaping the battlefield with drones, stretching Russian air defenses, disrupting logistics, and forcing the Kremlin into a winter it is poorly prepared to endure. Russia exaggerates its progress to pressure Kyiv and the West into surrendering Donetsk Oblast. Russia is amplifying modest battlefield gains in an effort to convince Ukraine and its Western partners that the fall of Donetsk Oblast is inevitable. But according to the Institute for the Study of War, ISW, this narrative has little connection to battlefield reality. Even at Russia's current pace, the full occupation of the oblast would require several more years of sustained, high-intensity operations. Over the past few months, Russian forces have intensified their efforts around Pokrovsk in Donetsk Oblast, attempting to reinforce a propaganda storyline of unstoppable momentum. This comes despite Russia suffering extremely heavy losses in repeated assault waves and failed infantry infiltration attempts. ISW notes that the Kremlin has doubled down on the message that its recent progress proves a broader victory is on the horizon. Yet the data tells a different story. Between 15 August and 20 November, Russian troops expanded their control by an average of 9.3 square kilometers per day across the entire front line, not just in Donetsk. Even if Russia maintained this rate and Ukrainian defenses, along with Western arms deliveries, remained stable, the complete occupation of Donetsk Oblast would not occur before August 2027. ISW stresses that even this projection is optimistic from Russia's perspective. The recent acceleration in Russian advances was helped by the foggy, rainy weather of fall 2025, which temporarily disrupted Ukrainian drone operations and allowed Russia to push forward more aggressively. As weather conditions normalize, Russia's pace is expected to slow sharply. Moreover, Russia has deliberately avoided the most heavily fortified cities, including Slovyansk and Kramatorsk. These urban centers form the backbone of the so-called Donetsk Fortress Belt, a defensive network that would require far more manpower, equipment, and time to penetrate. This means the 9.3 kilometers squared per day figure paints a misleading picture. It represents gains across the whole theater, not within the toughest areas of Donetsk, where Ukraine's defenses are strongest. To reach the projected August 2027 timeline, Russia would need to concentrate all its current resources, troop strength, and offensive energy solely on Donetsk Oblast. ISW considers this unrealistic. Russian command is expected to maintain pressure across the broader front line, from Kupiansk to the south, in order to hold the strategic initiative. Spreading forces across multiple axes drastically reduces the chances that the Kremlin can conduct a focused, sustained campaign to seize Donetsk in the near term. ISW highlights that continued European military assistance and European-financed US weapons deliveries could strengthen Ukraine's defenses enough to slow Russia's advance even further, and potentially reverse some of the gains Russia has made in recent months. In short, Russia's claims of inevitable victory in Donetsk serve more as political pressure than military reality. The road to fully occupying the oblast remains long, costly, and uncertain, and Ukraine's Western partners retain the power to make that road even harder.